What do you get in 10 months with a Polaris Sportsman 850? A shitload of fun. Guys, welcome back to the channel. It's been a minute, but we've been doing a lot of riding. Wanted to do a long-term review of the 2020 Polaris Sportsman 850. We got 2,080 miles on her. I believe 185 miles. I wanted to go over the likes, dislikes, problems, lack of problems, what I like, what I don't like. Stay tuned. Guys, 10 months in, 2,080 miles, and no major failures. This machine is still on the original belt. Haven't had any slipping. Everything seems to be just fine with the transmission. Have had no problems with the engine. Everything hasn't skipped a beat. Seems to run fine. The handling, the ride quality has all stayed. Haven't had any complaints about that. And the only failure points are kind of the ones that everybody knows about. All of the bushings have already been replaced once with Polaris bushings, which is something I will not do again. They do not hold up. All they do is let the dirt in, and then even when you grease them, the grease just holds the dirt and it's like a sanding compound. I have replaced the front brakes on it once, getting pretty close to needing them again. The rear brakes are untouched. Just taking the wheels off, cleaned it. I haven't had it leave me on the trail, but I have had the rear differential pinion seal leak, which Polaris did cover under warranty. Just a $50 deductible with that. I replaced the tires, which I will be doing a separate video on. I am happy with them. Not as happy as I was hoping to be, but overall gist is they're a good tire. The factory winch has worked flawlessly. The cluster had to be reset once because it wouldn't keep time. All of the accessories I have installed have pretty much been Polaris brand. The box, the rack extenders, hand guards, the heated grips and thumb, the rack extender, the paint. This wasn't hit. This just the paint started coming off. The quality of the finish wasn't very good in my opinion. I did install these extended flares on it. They work great. However, they just don't fit very well. They've grown on me. They keep you clean. I got them at like half off. I wouldn't have wanted to pay the full price for them. These little mud flaps I made to go on here to keep the mud off the handles. As you guys can see, prevent that from happening. They've worked out well. But yeah, I've enjoyed the machine a lot. We put down a lot of miles at Hatfield and Kentucky, different parts of West Virginia and Pennsylvania, and it was what I was hoping the machine would be. What I think are must-have accessories are definitely the trunk. And here I've been keeping track of the trails that I've ridden with just this machine. We've almost completed Pocahontas. We're still working on it. Or no, I'm sorry, Hatfield McCoy, not Pocahontas. We're still working on it. Hopefully we can get all the trail systems done. This rear box is, in my opinion, invaluable if you're going on long rides. It's a must-have accessory for these, so you can keep your stuff. The front storage works out great. Not everything is in there right now, but it is a good place to keep maps. My rain gear's there. I keep some other odds and ends, straps and things like that in it. So the storage on the machine is fantastic. The built-in storage underneath here, I keep my this day could not get any worse accessories in there. So if it gets to that point, I just unpop the box, but at least I always have the stuff with me. Air compressor, different things like that in there. So yes, the box and storage accessory there is a must-have in my opinion. All right, let's break this thing down and into its different categories. One would be ride and handling. The ride of the machine can't be matched by any other brand. It's fantastic. I've said that in other videos, and I will still rave about it. The power steering, even after getting used to it, it is too light at high speeds. It does get twitchy on loose surface like gravel or dust, real dusty areas. If the ground's a little tighter, a little higher traction, it seems to be fine, but that is something that I have not gotten accustomed to yet with all these miles and hours. The seat is great, very comfortable, not too wide. You can be comfortable, you don't feel like it's spreading you apart. If your butt does start to hurt, you just slide back into this thicker zone, rest there, and very comfortable. Long days, 100+ mile days, you will love that seat. Same gripes I had from before. The foot pegs are just too far back. Either they need to add an indentation here or get these forward a ½ inch, 3/4 of an inch, something like that. Just when you get your boot locked in, for me it hits back here, and I can't. Sometimes when you're on choppy stuff, you lose your footing. The braking system is great. People complain that the 850 doesn't have 2 rear disc brakes. On this side it doesn't have it. The rear dip is locked together, so one brake is more than enough. I can slide the ass end at will just by hitting the foot brake. I don't see the point in having 2 brakes if one is already locking it up whenever you want it to. Front brakes grab good, no fade. I seem to not have any problems getting the machine slowed down, and these tires have made a huge difference in traction as far as stopping, so I am able to get it brought down to speed a good bit quicker than I originally was out on the trail. The downhill descent control at first can be annoying, the engine braking, but once you get used to this machine and you hop on something else and go down a hill or just let off the throttle, this engine braking and the automatic descent control is, man, it works so well. It is a great system. And once you get used to feathering your throttle and how you're supposed to ride the machine, you will never want to ride another machine without it. Coming off great big down slopes, machine holds traction, the ass end doesn't want to come around on you, you don't feel like you're getting out of control. Very pleased with that system. The 4-wheel drive system is much better. I came from Kawasaki and other brands where you switch it in and have diff lock. The Polaris is definitely the better system. You don't even know when it's working, It just kicks in and goes without hesitation. You're never waiting for it to kick in, or it spins too much for it to kick in. It always seems to come on at exactly when you need it. And I have no complaints there. The transmission and the shifter have not had any issue out of. Very smooth. The detents work great. Once you get used to the machine, you definitely know where you are in your gears, and it makes it a lot easier. When they're brand new, this is a little stiff. It does loosen up, not to a point of sloppiness. As you can see, it's still good and tight, but it feels very good in your hands. The transmission, no issues again with it. However, I have also performed service early on the transmission. I believe I'm on the fourth or fifth oil change on the transmission. Cheap insurance in my opinion. Plus, when you're going over the machine, you can find your other issues. Now, points of complaint. Wheel bearings. I have already had to replace a few, not only on this machine, but our other Polaris products. Kind of a letdown for as expensive as they are. They just don't seem to get life. And I even bought one of the greasing tools. By the time you take everything apart and grease it, and you try and do that at maintenance all the time, in my opinion, you're just further off to let them wear out and get a new bearing and replace it. It's not that big a deal. This machine has not had the failure on this spindle, I call it, but our other machines were on the bottom there, where the ball joint goes up in, the aluminum housing is actually egged out, and I had to sleeve those with metal to get them to hold up. The double A-arm front suspension is much plusher, handles better, steers better, especially at higher speed and in chop and rough conditions than the McPherson strut front suspension. So if you're debating between what to get, like if you're looking at the 570s and you can afford it, go with the 570 Trail that gives you the same suspension setup. Long run, I think you'll be much happier. The bushings on these, again, are complete garbage. I would suggest that if you buy a new machine, as soon as you can possibly afford it, order you some garage product bushings and replace them all, and then you never have to worry. They last and last. We have them on other things. They're fantastic, well worth the money. I also never had a failure with any of the differentials. I did, however, put the Seco Racing front pinion cover on just as a preventative maintenance, so that I never had to worry. Now, I've never swamped this machine or had it buried in mud or anything like that, so I haven't had any issues related to that I see a lot of guys do have. The belt, again, is the factory original belt. What I do, every other oil change, I pull that belt cover off, I blow out the belt, I take a Scotch-Brite pad, I clean up the surfaces of the sheaves in the clutches, and I put it back together. I don't use any water or anything like that, just compressed air and blow everything out. So I've been happy there. I'm probably going to go ahead and replace it now, just as a preventative maintenance feature, or just as preventative maintenance. I'll keep that belt as my spare out on the trail in case something was to happen. The shocks I haven't had any issue with. Everything seems to be just as it was when I got it from the factory new. I did have to adjust all the shocks up. I believe I'm on the second to last. That gives me still a plush ride. I'm a heavier guy, 260, and I can still put it in the air as to what you would expect on a trail. It's not a motocross machine, but yeah, man, they ride nice, and in the fact, I think that's just Polaris's whole claim to fame, in my opinion, is the quality of the ride. So what does it come down to? Would I buy this machine again? The answer is yes. I don't think there's anything else on the market that is going to offer you the enjoyment, the ride quality, the power, and just the good looks of the Polaris 850 Sportsman. I've looked. I was unhappy about the bushings, but there's just nothing else that'll compare. The Can-Ams, personal preference, I don't care for the looks of them. If you do, have at it. I like the looks of the Polaris better. But overall, yes, I would buy this machine again. It is, it's a little hard on fuel, it seems, compared to some other machines. But still roughly 80 to 100 miles for a tank. And that's riding pretty steady. Some higher speeds and up and downs. So fuel economy's been good. There are some things that if you do go buy one, you should look to do almost immediately. Tires, bushings, get you some spare wheel bearings, maintain your service intervals to the T. Don't let it go past. I use only the Polaris oils. They're not that expensive. So in my opinion, which is just my opinion, I know there's guys out there that love the Shapers and AMS oil. Hey, have at it. Really what it comes down to, I think, is as long as you're consistently keeping your services up, the oil isn't necessarily going to buy you any more life out of your wheeler. I think it's more the regular service intervals, keeping the oil clean, differentials and such. I change much more often than the book calls for, probably every third service, or at least every time I change the transmission. I change both front and rear differentials. Not a hard job, and in my opinion, just cheap insurance. So I appreciate you guys watching the Quad Billy stuff. We got some ride videos coming. If you're looking at a Sportsman, buy the damn thing.